All right. This is Web3 Whispers. We actually have a new intro here. So it's Web3 Whispers, where we talk about what's whispered in the dark, dank, musty rooms of Web3.
Lots of Axe body spray in those rooms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm Mathias, and I'm a co-founder over at Shogun Wars. And I'm joined by my co-host, Steeb, and he's going to intro our guest today.
Hey, guys, I'm Steeb. Contributor for Shogun War, dude, numbers and words guy, helped with the tokenomics white paper, et cetera, et cetera. And we're joined today by OX Rosowski. Probably butchered how to say it. Maybe I didn't, but he's our gigabrain today, and he's written some pretty interesting and fun articles to read. I know he also participates in OlympusDao, and I think he has his hands in Abacus as well. Russ, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself,
man.
and then we can kick it off.
Yes, of course. First of all, thanks for having me. My first spot ever, super excited to be here.
Of course.
But yeah.
Up in the pod cherry here. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're only 5 episodes in, so we're almost in the same seat.
No,
we're basically all new.
There's always a first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as Steve said, I've been an OlympusDao contributor for, 8 months or so. I started last summer.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, my thing is data and data analytics. I thought I love DeFi, I'm a DeFi guy. So I don't know, it sounds super appealing to me, this new thing, that was trying to build financial shenanigans.
Mm-hmm. And 8 months is 8 months is a long time in Web3. So
yeah,
you're exactly. A seasoned vet, basically, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And no, basically I started contributing. They wanted me to stay there. I managed to join the policy team, which is probably one of the most interesting things that I've achieved, because there are super big brains there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, right now I also got interested on Abacus. Which we are going to discuss later on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm just trying to build some stuff, and now I also started enjoying writing, so I want to put out some content and I don't know, share my thoughts and how I see the space.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually, because Mathias and I were speaking about this before, and even though when you're in, you're hip deep, or you're so deep that you need goggles in the Web3 space, it can feel really big. It feels like there's a lot of people that are in it, but in reality, it's actually relatively small. And it's funny because Mathias had been sending me some of your articles. I think there's one that you did something about keeping your attention, and then the latest one that you did, which I know was on the Daily Ape, was the financialization of NFTs, and I really like that article a lot. I gave it a pretty I read it a couple of times. So first of all, congratulations, and second of all, good work, man. It was an interesting read.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, the idea, I started writing some stuff after all the Olympus drama with Jordi, and I don't know, I've always liked writing, but I never got the chance. And I was okay, man, why don't try to build an audience? You already started to build a network with the people you are working with.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to build an audience. Maybe your network grows, and let's see what happens, because there's super interesting people in this space. And if you are only browsing through Twitter, it's you get some value, but you also lose a lot of time. But if you start doing stuff and putting that work out there, people is going to notice, and they are going to reach, and maybe you get some opportunities. Maybe you don't get anything out of it, just a friendship or cool people to talk with. And I don't know, I thought that was interesting. So I decided to write this article regarding owning your attention back, which was more or less on these lines, do not focus just on crypto Twitter, avoid FOMO, because people are always psyopsing you, and you know how it works. If you've been,
especially Hentai Senpai,
it's
he's
also
always
psychological warfare. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but in fact, everyone who's here is trying to make it, and we spend a lot of hours trying to look for some alpha and some stuff, but at the end, most of the times it's counterproductive. So I think it's just better to, I don't know, have a strategy or some goals, and then work towards that. And for me, this is contributing in some places, and yeah, just like building intentional like relationship with
So
Yeah.
I have a question for you on that note too. What would you consider to be the most important moment in your DeFi/crypto career, and what are some goals that you have for yourself? Like, what are some plans that you have to get to those goals? Because it seems like you're a pretty goal-oriented guy. You're pretty thoughtful. You're talking about refining the information that you get. Obviously, there's a lot of clutter on Twitter. There's a lot of clutter on Discord. So if you could speak a little bit to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, man. So actually, so I would say my biggest goal like so far, and I can already say that because like it's public, but it's been like having the ability to build like a simulation model for Olympus. So like a couple of weeks ago, there was like an OIP to bring Olympus to the next phase with the so-called like stability model. Like TLDR, super quick for those like listeners who may not know. Olympus has had like historically a lot of volatility, and now what we want to do is like make the treasury active, so it becomes like an active participant. And since it's one of the biggest whales in the game, hopefully it's going to help the market. So the idea is to make price more stable. So if price drops, the treasury is going to step in and buy, and if price moves, it's going to sell tokens. So Zeus had this like super smart idea, and he started building this. But he was like running simulations on Excel. Like he's like super smart and no solidity, but I don't know. Like he started doing it on Excel, and I was like, dude, let me like do it on Python. So it's gonna be like way faster, because whenever he had to like update parameters, it would take like 5 minutes, and in Python it's like 2 seconds. So I started like building.
Doing something on Excel is kind of archaic now, it seems.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he started like building the first version of the model. Then I did it on Python. We saw that it worked like faster and better, and then we started iterating from there. So I don't know, like I've been like in policy for some months, and I've been active, but like for the first time, I've contributed like something that I was leading alone, and I mean not alone, but like with everyone's help. But like I was the one coding, but I got kind of like the recognition to that Zeus, who is like an autistic guy who never like answers DMs, message me like, yo dude, let's get on a call, because I have like some new ideas and I want you to update the model. And I don't know, like for me, like being like having the possibility to have a one-to-one with a guy that smart, it's like super rewarding. And yeah, I don't know, like this is probably one of the biggest achievements, like nothing monetary, but you know, something that really like fulfilled me intellectually.
No, that's the beauty of Web3 too, is just like this this new capability that we have to look within our community and find resources, people that are really talented that want to contribute and can actually feel that like palpable growth. That's something that we've talked about a lot too, and
yeah,
it's cool to see that paying off.
It's funny how people think like crypto is like the most meritocracy, like open, just like there's no judgments, like everybody's so open to everybody. It's so funny to hear people say like, oh, we need more this, or we need more of that, or we need, you know, it's so close-minded or whatever. It's like literally you could be in a Discord, you just add value to the project, and the founder will DM you and say, hey, would you like to contribute? Like they don't check like, you know, your background, like can you send your, you know, there's no hoops. Your CV, like,
there's no hoops to jump through. It's not like, you know, you're in accounting. Why are you trying to get into compliance? Or like you're in finance. Why are you trying to get into marketing? It's just like you can build your own responsibilities and work in a million different places to all help the community grow. And no one is pushing back saying like, send me your resume. It's like you prove yourself. I like it.
Exactly, man. And that's like the cool part of like being Anon, is that you do not have anything behind you. Like you do not have a history that people like can judge you from. And then everything that you earn is because you deserve it, you know. And I love that. Like,
no, we love that too.
Yeah, I don't have anything to hide, you know, but it's always like nice that people value you by.
So what do you have to hide, RUS?
Sifu, thanks for joining the podcast here.
Where are the buddies, RUS?
Exactly. So,
Like, damn.
no,
No, we
Man.
love that too.
you
Do you want to
know,
speak a little bit about like the Anon philosophy? I know that that's one of the
Yeah.
things that you were interested in talking about. So I feel like that's a good segue.
yeah, sure, definitely. So yeah, it's basically what you said, no?
Hmm.
I believe like in people being valued for what they do,
Hmm.
and I feel like being Anon is like a choice that felt right for me at least because again I don't have to hide anything, but I want like people to value me for what I do, and then imagine that maybe things work out properly one
Hmm.
day, I make it, whatever. You can have your own life, and people do not treat you differently. I
Yeah.
don't want my
Hmm.
friends to, like, if one day I make it, I don't want my friends to know that I'm rich, and then treat me different because of that.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool to have like both personalities, like your anon web3 personality and then your like real persona. And i, I don't know, I think it's a choice that I like to take, because I was like, okay, if eventually I want to dox myself, that's something I can always do. But if I start doxed directly,
Hmm.
I cannot like go back that easily.
Yeah, it's not as feasible. But I mean, I think your
Yeah.
friends will know you're rich when you start buying them tables at the local club. But
We'll figure it out. Like,
they'll
but
figure it
no, I
out.
mean that's totally true. I mean, I think it's so much cleaner that it's just like you're judged for what you do, not for who you are.
Exactly.
And everybody wants to be rich, not famous. Usually in this space, some probably want both, but I
Yeah.
think that's really the goal.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it's
exactly.
like this figurative ski mask that you wear when you're working in Web3. It's like if you were to wear a ski mask and walk into a bank in real life, you're going to get shot, but here it's like the norm. So there's no one telling you like, "Oh, why haven't you doxed yourself?" It's more like, everyone's kind of is working with a pseudonymous. Not everyone, obviously, there's always the exceptions, but most life and kind of trying to build their way up in a community that's not judging them for their past.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. I
Yeah.
think we always have to push back on these things where people are like, "Oh, well, the team's not doxxed or this is not doxxed." It's like there's a lot of scammers that you know exactly who they are. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you
Yeah.
know.
absolutely, absolutely. And like, I really think that, or at least like for myself, um, like my Web3 personality is something I value a lot. Like, it's
Hmm.
not that I
Definitely.
have like a big audience or anything, but
Hmm.
I've like spent a lot of hours like building that. And like if one day I end up having like a reputation,
Hmm.
it's because I earn it, so I don't want to lose it. And I feel like if there's like an anon team that
Hmm.
has like a proven record, that's super valuable. Like, I don't have any kind of problem trusting someone who is anon.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's starting from scratch. Sorry, go ahead, Matthias. I don't want to
Oh no,
keep.
you're good. I was just gonna mention real quick that I had that same conversation or a conversation with Tetranode on Twitter about that, where like I was saying you could actually have a protocol where you can borrow against your persona on Twitter, Discord. Like, let's say you linked up all your social accounts for this persona that you've built,
Hmm.
you've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into. Some people might be willing to lend you ETH or whatever against that, saying like, okay, if you rug us, basically we're gonna wipe all your accounts and you'll have to start all over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
possible.
No,
yeah.
But
there's
sorry.
And
there's a lot of
go, go, go.
social capital, I feel like, in our Web3
Yeah,
personas.
definitely. That's what
Hmm.
I was about to say. And
Hmm.
like, maybe for us, it's not that easy to see, but the higher you go, like if you go closer to the citadel, no, these guys who have made it and who are like crypto Twitter like personalities,
Hmm.
um, man, like, okay, maybe they joined like back in the day, but if they are still like making some deals right now, it's because of their like personality.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
so if they lose that, they probably lose a big source of income for them.
Yeah, no, it's
Right. There,
collateralizing that social capital.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
exactly.
And the deal,
Super
so deal
interesting.
flow, they lose that, but they also like if you calculate that out in amount of hours, because people do this in the normie world, like I'll put, if you're making whatever $100 an hour and you spend 10,000 hours on this account, well,
Hmm.
that's worth, that's worth a lot of money. Like that's financially,
Yeah.
it is actually the financial and social credit. So I thought that was a good idea, but yeah.
Matthias thinks all of his
pretty much it.
ideas are good ideas. Well,
I think they're all gold, but you know.
Well, actually, I agree. Matthias's ideas are all pretty good. they're all
my babies.
fantastic. Yeah.
If they're ugly, I love them still. You know, they're totally fine. Like what I was actually going to ask too. What's your take? So is I kind of have a theory, but I'll let you go first, or whoever wants to jump on this one. But it seems like you know, are NFTs in DeFi both categories? Are they PvP? Are they both PvP? Are they one PvE, one PvP, or is it a mix of both? What do you think?
Should I take it first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I think like DeFi is definitely PvP. Like we've like seen it time over time. Like it's a super difficult to play. Like it's an arena which is like super difficult to play in. Like there's like super smart people, and if you join a project that feels like a blue ocean, that there's no competition, you can be sure that competitions it's gonna get there soon. So we have all these like MEV, which is more or less easy to understand as a PvP, but then we have all these like psyops, all these like people who are like spreading messages on Discord or over Twitter, and who are then like dumping. And I feel like DeFi is clearly PvP. On the other end, like NFTs may be slightly different, and I think, I mean, like before I say anything, I have to say that I'm not like the guy who understands NFTs the most. So like my takes may be wrong, but I feel like DeFi requires a higher understanding, you know. So it is true that there are like some shit coins that can be marketed as like DeFi stuff with like, I don't know, staking rewards, or for example like all the own forks. But I feel like NFTs are way more retail friendly, and usually retail it's it doesn't have like the same mentality. So usually retail are more optimistic, you know, they just join the space, they want to get rich, and then they feel like, okay, we are all gonna make it, you know. So they buy Bored Ape, and they are like, okay, we have this community, it's a strong, if everyone enlists, the floor is gonna go up and we all get rich directly, you know. So there's like this mindset, and of course like there's people who play PvP games in NFTs as well, because there are like a bunch of flippers as well. But I feel like there's more sense of community probably. I don't know if because they are still not aware of like every player in the space, but at least maybe market making is more difficult, and then because of that there's not as much PP as DeFi. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys.
No, I like it.
Yeah, same.
And Steve, yeah, did you have a take? I'll do my answer last, I think.
Do your answer first. You go first, Matthias.
Okay, cool. So I think it's the space is PvP and PvE. So I do kind of agree that DeFi, I think by default, is a little bit more PvP, and NFTs by default, like on the masses, is probably more PvE. It's easier to get there. I think each individual, like we'll call them investors, each individual degen coming into the space, into DeFi, into into NFTs, I think they bring their own mindset. I would imagine it kind of like if you're walking into a bad neighborhood, you're probably not like, hell, maybe I'll just go, knock on a door and ask people, for milk or whatever. Like you're like, okay, I'm on guard. Like, okay, like is that person, whatever, right? But NFTs are like walking into like a nice neighborhood. You're like, it's probably all fine. I don't think that happens around here.
Yeah.
But there's really right. But then there's really bad things going on. They're just behind closed doors, like people dumping, saying, oh, apes are going to the moon, or moonbirds or whatever. Like, or my projects, I promise to never dump on you, and and then people are like dumping, without saying anything. And I feel like DeFi is like, I'm gonna dump on all you guys first. You see if you can stop me. It's
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
So it's an
Exactly.
interesting thing.
My take,
Yeah.
I'd say, is like, I think that there's like two aspects to NFTs. I think the PvP phase is more with information. You know what I mean? Like getting into a project before others is very
Mhm.
information oriented, and that becomes like kind of the PvP aspect. But I think once you're in that community, it just becomes like a collaborative PvE environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
I
Those are my
agree
take.
with both takes. Like, yeah, I think like the neighborhoods were like a good analogy, and I
You
feel
are,
like this nice neighborhood is also like sustained by the illiquid nature of NFTs, you know,
mhm.
because it's
Mhm.
easier to dump
Yeah.
that, because
Yeah.
in DeFi there's always like liquidity,
And
so like not
what
always, but most of the times. Mhm.
what part of the
Mhm.
life cycle would you say NFTs are in? I mean, I know you have a take here because I can see it like kind of between the lines in the financialization of NFTs
Mhm.
article that you wrote. But you know, like if we're to break up the NFT market life cycle into like three categories, let's say like birth and early adoption, let's say like mainstream adoption, and then kind of when the market's saturated and you know gains and losses are smaller, acceleration is kind of slowed. NFTs maybe become, you know, just
Mhm.
depending on market adoption, they could become more illiquid, they could become more liquid. It just depends. Obviously, it's always going to be tiered by the you know blue chip NFTs or you know baby NFTs. But what's your take on where we're at, and how long do you think it'll be until we hit that next phase?
Yeah, so I think right now we are into like a growth phase. So
Mm-hmm.
we are like still growing, and there's like plenty of room to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I think NFTs have managed to get like a retail interest,
Mm-hmm.
which like DeFi hasn't managed to do like in such a deep way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably because it's easier to understand NFTs, and it's also like more appealing and fun for the average Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I definitely think that we still haven't seen like an explosion, and that we will see it. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is like really related with the article, and I guess like we can jump into it like now after
Yeah, let's
this.
do that.
But yeah, so my take is that right now, those who joined the NFT space are just like degens,
Mm-hmm.
and people who kind of like, you were either here as an Ethereum OG, or you joined because like of DeFi,
Mm-hmm.
and then you jumped over NFTs, or you either joined this past year because you saw like that people were doing a bunch of X's on their portfolios, and you
Mm-hmm.
were like, okay, I want that as well,
Mm-hmm.
and this seems like fun. But at the end, it's again, this is like my view. I'm not the best like NFT guy, but um, I think like for most people feels a little bit like the casino, you know. So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
mint. I'm gonna try as much to get as much whitelist as possible, and then I'm gonna be able to win the lottery eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've seen like retail adoption because like this gambling is like appealing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that the next phase is gonna start whenever we are able to bring like institutional investors, and also like retail people who are not degens,
Mm-hmm.
so who see like stuff more as an investment and not as a gamble. And I think what I like showcase in the article is the key.
Mm-hmm.
So financializing NFTs, I think, is the way. And the way I see this happening is by using lending protocols. So basically, by driving liquidity towards this illiquid space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because if you have liquidity, then you can play all the DeFi games, and you can get deals, and things become much more interesting and useful.
And how do you think this like sort of unlocking of liquidity that's going to happen once NFTs become more heavily financialized, like once there's a lot more lending protocols, how do you think that'll affect the volume of sales at the blue chip level? And then how do you think it'll affect it at like the little guy level? Because it seems obviously a lot of these lending protocols are starting off with like your Bored Apes, you know, your Azuki, Cyberpunks, whatever. Sorry, CryptoPunks. And how do you think that I know, just
renamed now.
gaming mindset. How do you think that'll affect like the little guys? Like, do you think that the lending protocols will ever get there, or do you think that it's always just going to be like these blue chips?
Yeah, I think this is gonna go through different phases, and like it makes sense to start bootstrapping liquidity with the biggest like players, the ones which have like more volume and the highest price. But I think that eventually we are gonna lower the bar, and more like mid-tier collections are gonna start entering. I'm not like sure, and I don't want to make predictions here, but I think that like for this market to exist, there needs to be someone willing to provide that liquidity. So at the end, whenever there's like lending and borrowing, it means that someone's taking on a risk, and it's like the person who is like lending their liquidity. So I don't know until like which point there's gonna be people willing to give liquidity away potentially. So I wouldn't expect like super small players to have access to this liquidity, but definitely like mid tier like projects would definitely get liquidity.
Yeah, especially since like the trade-off in risk really just means like if you're gonna lend on like a small NFT, with like a relatively low floor price, I feel like the trade-off is then that the principal is going to be charging a higher rate.
Yeah, exactly. And also because of like seniority. So an NFT which has like a super low floor price, it's way more likely to go to zero eventually. So if it goes to zero, like someone loses everything, So
yeah,
that's why I think like mid-tier is
definitely
like
not good.
Definitely not.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I wonder what you guys' take would be on, coming up with all my crazy ideas, but you could do something where you're selling, just like home mortgages with credit ratings, right? I know this didn't turn out well in 08, but
yeah, I was going to say this is becoming eerily familiar.
But I could totally see that where you basically, you put them together in tranches or whatever, and like you have the top tier ones and they pay, it's actually the liquidity is spread out, 100 ETH or 1,000 ETH or whatever is spread out between Azukis, apes, moonbirds, and punks or whatever, right? And then the next tier down is going to be, whatever you could do them by volume or by floor price or whatever. And then it's like an index more on the blue chips, basically.
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, there's like some protocols which are doing like stuff kind of in these lines. So for example, I mean, I guess like NFTX. So basically they create like these balls that aim to like provide liquidity to collections, and the idea is that you deposit your NFT, and then in exchange you get like an ERC20, which is then exchangeable for an NFT of the ball, like a random NFT. So these only make sense for like floor or like low tier NFTs from a collection. You don't want to do this with a top quality NFT such as like an alien punk or something like this. But then there are players such as like OlympusDao, which kind of uses like the Olympus model to bond and create a treasury. So basically, what they do is that they have a bunch of like NFTs, by using NFTX and leveraging NFTX to bootstrap more liquidity. And at the end, it ends up like being like an index, as you were saying. Like it's not exactly that, but it moves in a similar like direction.
The nature is similar.
I think it'd be really interesting. Probably something we could build on top of Abacus too.
Yeah. I mean, everything's just getting built off of Abacus. No, we when we talked to Medici or Gio, whatever he wants to go by, when we talked to him, he made a very interesting and I think valid, succinct point about how like when you're building a services protocol, it needs to be very specialized. Mechanically, it needs to be extremely specialized, but it needs to be simple. That way, like other things can be built off of it. And I think that's kind of why it's easy. Like that's the machine that he's built, I think, with Abacus. And I think it's why it's so easy to picture all of these other financial service protocols kind of being built on top of it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it also, I mean, to touch on another point, it'll be interesting to see like what the institutional entrance will look like. Like, are a lot of institutions going to be coming in straight off the bat, like swinging for lending protocols, or are they going to be coming in and investing directly in NFTs? I mean, obviously we see a lot of DeFi, like a lot of crypto funds, Web3 funds that are doing investments directly in NFTs, but it'll be interesting to start seeing like how they start leveraging these like lending protocols.
Yeah, I feel like for them it's gonna be way more appealing because at the end, these people have a lot of capital and they want to deploy that capital. And if you like end up holding an ape or a punk, you are only betting on that it's gonna reprice in the future. But like the upside, it's kind of limited. And I feel like these funds are really like DeFi, and they love the ability of getting deals out of stuff. So lending protocols on NFTs is like super appealing for them because if they manage to get loans which are big enough and are competitive for their size, they can farm a lot of stuff with that ETH, which is what most of the funds are doing anyways. So most of the funds would have like some ETH or some stables to farm. And if you have like NFT lending, you allow them to have this extra layer, so they can take the bet on the NFT repricing in the future, but they are not liquid during those like 5 years that they are willing to hold the NFT.
Yeah, no, like mechanically their revenue stream is, or I should say like mechanically everything's built off of the value of like X stablecoin. But having these lending protocol opportunities or like, opportunities for different revenue streams will give them a way to make money off of what they're holding.
Yeah, I think what we know about institutions is they fucking love derivatives. Like they love like all these like side like things. They're like, what can I bet on? It's essentially like TradFi gambling. So
which lends itself to our next pod too, pari-mutuel markets, just derivatives, crypto derivatives.
Exactly. I do love long form gambling. It's not even long form. It's just kind of like, let's just not call it the G word. Like it's good.
I mean, it's like I mean, even the stock market is just like informed gambling, right? Like you're just betting that something is going to go up or it's going to go down. I mean, and then you just make that much more plain and simple and tangible if you do like options or whatnot, right? Because then you're literally just betting up or down, and that's how you're making your money. It's like,
I know it's crazy. I love boomers when they're like, oh, I want something real, what if nobody wants to buy Bitcoin anymore? I'm like, what if nobody wants to buy Apple anymore? Like then it's zero. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like if he's like, what if everyone in the world doesn't want Bitcoin anymore? Like, yeah, well, okay, it's just very unlikely. What if everybody doesn't want Apple? Like then it goes to zero. Like that's how supply and demand works. Like
exactly, we're gonna see fluctuations. Everything's the markets are cyclical. It's not going to be like we're not going to go to zero in a day, and we're not going to go to a million in a day.
It's just a veil for like, I hate computers. It sounds complicated. I don't want to learn something new. Like
it's just monopoly money.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, none of it's backed up by anything, and it's all a cultural kind of thing. So, but cool. What we had some other questions. I don't know if we wanted to touch more on the paper. I was kind of curious, actually, if you could distill down the NFT financialization of NFTs into maybe like 3 or 5 kind of core ideas or core principles. Yeah,
definitely. So basically, the idea. Like the underlying idea is what we've been discussing. So NFTs are these illiquid assets, and if we have the ability to bring liquidity to the holders of these illiquid assets, we are going to unlock a new layer of financialization for them to play with. And basically, in my eyes, this layer is DeFi, which already exists. But as we know, like the NFT market is fucking huge. The growth projection is like impressive. And then if like we add this extra layer, I think that's like the perfect catalyst for it to blow up. So yeah, this is like the core idea. And then that's the main reason why I believe like NFT lending it's going to be a real thing. I mean, actually, we've started to see the first protocols already like going live. I think like JPEG started this week, so which is like quite cool. And then, so basically, in the article, I defined two different types of lending protocols. So we have like the peer-to-peer lending, which we have like NFT5, for example. And I decided not to go through that route because I think that protocol-to-peer lending is more like scalable, and at least it was more interesting to me. And then here we have two different categories. So we have two different approaches. So as you know, like with lending, the mechanics of lending is that one people, at least like in DeFi, you know, so one people is gonna give some asset away in exchange for some yield. And then there's going to be another player who is going to want to use that asset. No? They are going to they want to borrow that asset, so they are going to deposit some collateral, and then the key mechanic is that if this borrower fails to pay, they are going to get liquidated, and then they are going to lose the collateral. So the problem with NFTs is the ability to liquidate. So in DeFi, we have flash loans, we have like whales that could maybe like do it directly. But with NFTs, we have a problem. So we don't have AMMs. And then since we don't have like a continuous like supply and demand curve, it's difficult to liquidate people. So the first approach is based on predictions and based on Oracle pricing. Usually what the protocols are doing is they are using a reference price. Usually it's floor price of the collections. And then maybe some of them are allowing for higher prices, like higher LTV based on attributes of the
rarity.
assets. Exactly. And then some protocols such as like Upshot go one step further, and they are building machine learning in order to determine the fair like value of an NFT. What happens though? The problem that they have is that even if they have the best appraising tool in the world,
there's still volatility.
Exactly, and they still need someone to buy the NFT. So if they have to liquidate a loan, like they have to take the collateral themselves until they find a buyer for the NFT. Even if you have like the best pricing system, if you cannot guarantee that someone's going to buy that NFT, you have a problem because then you incur on bad debt. So that's why they have to drop their LTVs. First example that we can see is JPEG. Like this week, they started like a protocol went live, which is super cool because they are one of the pioneers, but the LTV is at 33%, which is really low. Why do they have to have such low LTVs? Because they need to ensure that if they need to liquidate, someone's gonna buy. And their reasoning is like, okay, if someone like if the price drops that much and we have to liquidate someone at 33%, we are sure that someone in the market is going to buy that NFT at such a huge discount. So that works to begin with, but that's not efficient. And that's why I believe something like Abacus has higher potential. So the way Abacus works is that instead of the protocol giving all the liquidity upfront to the borrower, basically what they do is like what they call optimistic pools, and in these pools, people would go there and they would lock their ETH, and then with that locked ETH, they will like by aggregation they will determine a fair valuation for an NFT. What happens? They have to lock their ETH upfront for like minimum 1 week, max 12 weeks. And then if there's a liquidation, so Abacus is just like a pricing mechanism or protocol, and then NFT like lending protocols can be built on top of Abacus. But if you have something like Gradient, which uses Abacus, if Gradient issues a loan and then they have to liquidate that loan, they can directly extract the ETH from the pool, so they can do an instant liquidation and risk-free, because like there's a smart contract that ensures that you're gonna get paid. So they don't take on any risk. Then what happens is that if it's overpriced or underpriced, people like would get sliced or rewarded. But
yeah, it's this optimistic proof of stake, right? It's the idea that like if the consensus or the perception is that there's 100% guarantee behind this valuation, because if you overvalue the NFT, like if you're getting into these riskier pools that are just above, plainly above the price of the NFT when it goes to auction, then those people in those pools are getting slashed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's disincentive for overvaluing. Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. Like we really like Abacus. I think Mathias and I have been speaking a lot on the side about it. We're pretty excited about it. Yeah, no, I mean, one thing I was thinking of too is it'll be interesting to see like if the lending ever gets there where they start doing like little guy NFT collateral, like maybe the solution isn't to like lend someone, 0.1 ETH on like their small guy NFT. Maybe the solution is to lend them like 1 ETH on like a bundle of smaller NFTs, something like that, just so that there's a little bit more value to that, and there's a little bit more, yield for the people that are actually lending.
Yeah, that would make more sense than probably like lending out just like
one small guy. Yeah. Mathias, do you have any other questions in like the financialization of NFT article, or do you want to get to some of our fun make RUS sweat a little bit questions?
I think that's pretty good. The only thing I was going to touch on with that was basically like I think people need to realize that peer-to-peer kind of sounds I think it sounds good, like peer-to-peer lending and all these kind of things, but we've already figured out it's really inefficient, and that's why we've transitioned to more of an AMM model in DeFi instead of how fast, let's say, like OTC markets are. It's just so hard. Like you want 1 Bitcoin, and there's one guy that wants 0.9 and there's another guy that wants 1.5, so it's not big enough for him, and it's not, it's too big for another. It's so I think we're already past that phase.
I mean, peer-to-peer will just never be as efficient or precise.
Yeah. It's that capital efficiency that we're really already hitting. So
yeah.
But that was the only point I was going to touch on there.
Yeah. So I have some, I think we both have some fun questions for you, Russ, just general stuff. We're joking about trying to make you sweat.
They're not bad. We're just playing around. We're just having too much fun.
I mean,
so I know one thing
so
yeah, yeah, you can always stop off if a question's too bad.
Don't worry, man.
Yeah, we're gonna be like, this new guy's voice sounds very familiar. I don't know where Russ went, but this new guy.
Changing my voice. It's just me changing my voice and answering my own questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay.
No, but so we talked a little bit about FOMO, and it's a funny word IRL, but it's very tangible. It's like it plays its role in value for sure in DeFi and I mean, it does even actually in like stock markets, buying equities, etc. But like I think we feel it much more when FOMO is riding on the back of Twitter and Discord and all these other like social media connection platforms. So how do you handle FOMO in the space? And what do you consider to be kind of the threshold for like, okay, like I wish I'd gotten into this, but fuck that. Like the price is pretty high now. I'm just going to wait for the next blue chip to appear.
Yeah. So first of all, like I feel like everyone feels FOMO. Like it's impossible not to feel FOMO, but the thing is if you manage to control it or not. And what I try to do whenever I feel like anxious, maybe anxious, like it's a strong word, but whenever I feel this urge, to ape into something, I'm like, yo, dude, wait a second. For how long have you been, have you known about this project, because maybe it's something that they have just like chilled, or you've seen like maybe 5 different influencers or like crypto Twitter OGs like talking about, but they have like these private chats and everything. And if you just figure like if you discovered a project like 3 days ago and you already want to ape in, at least you should have done like some due diligence. And I think this is the hardest part, is like my resources are limited, and then what I try to do is like to be intentional. So a lot of times I like look back at my portfolio and I'm like, man, what the fuck? I want to invest in something which I'm like fundamentally bullish on. Like, for example, this happens now with with Abacus. I'm bullish Abacus, and I want to invest there because I think it's like game changer.
Agreed.
And I look back at my portfolio, and there's like some stuff that I'm like willing to dump because I think that's more valuable. So the question that comes to my mind is, when did you started holding that, and why was the reason? Why are you willing to dump it so quickly now? You know, and yeah, like in this like past months, I've been like moving my holdings mostly to ETH, and yeah, like now I'm mainly in ETH. Like I'm like farming some stuff, but I feel like FOMO hits all of us, and we just need to be aware that it's gonna be there. And whenever you feel it, acknowledge that, okay, I'm feeling FOMO, and then you have to try to stick to your plan. You know, because
I think it's
plan, you're fucked.
Yeah, exactly. we don't like to get fucked here. Well, I should say, on DeFi. It's interesting. I mean, I think like one thing that I always kind of, or at least I started to kind of picture myself constantly as like, not saying that this is actually what I am, but like if I think through, like whenever I'm reading tweets or like whenever I'm in Discord and someone's like touting some project or something, I just picture myself, at least at first, as like exit liquidity. And I'm like, I'm just like, I'm exactly the person they're targeting for. So if I come from that mindset and then I build my investment thesis to the point where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm actually confident in this project, then I have a little bit more assurance that what I'm getting into, even if maybe I didn't get in at the lowest price, like I am bullish on growth in this project. And that's why I'm getting it, not because someone on Twitter said like, oh, you need to buy into this project.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Like if you invest in something, I mean, it depends on everyone, no? But if you are not a trader, and if you invest, you need to fundamentally believe. That's what you just said. That describes it perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think people really need to have an investment thesis and like a game plan, you know, like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, you know, the old saying, but at least you have a plan going in before you get punched in the face in DeFi, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also like answering to your other question regarding whenever you miss something. So I think like one of the most clear examples of that is like bong bears. So I've been like watching this collection go up in price since like, I don't know, it's been months, but I don't know, like maybe it's just scope, you know, but when I say I miss the train, I'm like, okay, I'm late, because if I just buy because I feel this FOMO because I'm late and I don't want to miss it anymore, what happens if it goes up? Whenever I've done this, it always goes down, you know, and whenever I don't do it, it keeps going up, of course.
But we just we do not learn in this space. We are not empirical. We are not empirical at all.
That's nice of you. It's good you sacrifice yourself. Like if you were gonna buy in, you would tank the whole collection. So those guys are it's nice of you sacrificing yourself.
I'm like, okay, I just cope, and I'm like, okay. But at the end, I feel like, okay, I want to be here for the long term, you know, because I love this space. I want to build, I want to learn. So then I'm like, man, what the fuck? Okay, I'm coping. I know I've missed this one, but if I'm gonna be here for like 5-10 more years, man, there's gonna be a bunch more, you know. So
exactly.
It doesn't help, like it doesn't fix it, but it somehow helps, you know. It helps me.
And maybe the most conservative mindset for the most part is like, once you start feeling that FOMO, I think we just need to shift the way that we think about it and our reaction to it from like, I'm feeling the FOMO, I'm going to invest, like I'm feeling the FOMO, like I'm just going to look for the next project. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's not always going to work out for you. Like Matthias has been talking about how he's FOMOing with like Moonbirds. And I know that like he told me that while the price was still going up. But like, I think for the most part, if we shift the way that we react to FOMO to just like, all right, time to look for a different project, then like we can save ourselves from like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and there's another. I heard somebody talking about a way like that. I think it was like a VC or something saying that they don't try to get, which was kind of funny, but they don't try to get early on NFTs. They just look for ones that are already clearly the winner and just invest in those and have a long enough time horizon to go, okay, good. You know, Bored Apes are probably always going to be good. You know, Punk's always going to be good. Azuki's always going to be good. You know, so they just go to blue chips or projects that have at least, you know, already kind of proven themselves and go, okay, whatever I lost out on being early, I'm gaining on being sure that I'm in the right collection, which is interesting. Because if you try to pick early ones, sometimes, you know, 1 out of 10, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the more conservative outlook, which I think would probably help a lot of our 12-year-old investors.
I mean, as long as they have like 300 grand to throw into a Punk or an ape or something, you know,
daddy's money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they call risk reward, no? So
yeah, exactly.
And that's what we don't do, you know.
That brings me to. I have one more question to you, Matthias, and then you can ask yours. But I think it just lends itself well to the last one. But what advice would you give to someone who's just entering Web3 DeFi space for the first time? Like, imagine like a new investor who's new to Twitter, new to Discord, like hasn't been a part of those communities and is just getting overwhelmed with like the clutter of information, you know, the mixture of shit posts, which make up probably 95% of the posts, and then the actual informative like alpha that they're getting on Twitter. What advice would you give them?
So basically, like, and I would give this advice to myself as well when I first joined, it's like you should figure out whether you love this space or not, like whether you are interested on learning or you just want to make money. Because if you just want to make money over the long run, it's probably best for you to just like buy ETH and never look back, you know, like you DCA and you never look back. But if you want to like learn stuff, build stuff, and potentially make things faster, then you have to commit and go like all in.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I feel like the best way, and again, I as I told you, like I started, like I joined the DAO months ago, but I feel like now I'm starting to see the rewards. Because right now, like I'm starting like to have my small network, some friends, maybe like some friends starting to build a project, so I can link him with a front-end dev, you know, or I can give some advice on, I don't know, like tokenomics or something. So I think like be patient. Like there's a lot of stories about like people who get rich in 1 year because they buy like Shiba Inu, or yeah, like, or you are on Twitter and you only see these OGs that they've been here for so long, and they are rich, and then it's like your benchmark moves there, like to their arena. But the fact is that you are way smaller, and you have to learn, you have to do things like step by step. And yeah, I don't know, like just like be patient, and if you really like this, get your hands dirty and try to build stuff, or like write stuff, or start a podcast, you know, like do something that provides value, and then good things are gonna come. Like if you help people out, like you provide value to the network, eventually I think that the network is going to provide value back to you. And I think like right now I'm starting to kind of see some like light, you know, of some things that are like, I don't know, like now I'm optimistic of what I'm starting to build. Like I believe in what I'm doing, and I'm happy from what things look like. Maybe they will keep as always, but I'm optimistic, you know.
No, it's actually incredible, like how much opportunity there is in the space. Just like, you know, it's really hard for me, like thinking about what I can do outside of work, like in real life, because like for me, I love to write, I love finance, I love like modeling, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like there's not that much opportunity for me to do that on top of my normal job, like
Yeah,
in real life. But there's so much opportunity in Web3 to do that and like actually make palpable
absolutely.
impact, and still like have time to do the things that you enjoy doing. I mean, that's what's been like incredibly rewarding for me, is just like throwing myself into the space 100%, doing as much as I can do when I can do it. But also like, still having this normal job on the side as like some reassurance that, I'm not going to lose all my money in the space, and
Yeah.
like still feeling like I'm exploring my passions, but like also, reaping the benefits.
Yeah, so I have to say, like, I completely like relate with that because I'm in the exact same situation. So I feel like um, I'm not like still like all in. So I work my full time job and then maybe 4 extra hours or whatever. Like a good thing about having an unknown identity is that you can like do stuff
Mm-hmm.
while you're working. So you can tweet and whatever, and no one knows. Um, but yeah, man, like I feel this is also important, and this is like something that it's hard. I don't know if this happens to you, but I feel good with myself with the fact that okay, I'm investing a lot of time with this, and I can see improvements
Mm-hmm.
slowly, but I can see some improvements. But I also have like this thought that okay, should I fucking drop everything and start working like full time Web3,
Yeah.
and go
Yeah.
all in?
Yes.
No, I completely relate. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
man. I
Yeah,
feel
no, I
like
mean,
that's worse than FOMO.
Yeah. It is. It is.
I know. I think I'm to give a different view. Like I'm more of the burn the ships mentality. Like I totally think anybody, like obviously anybody at this table, but also a lot of people that would consider it. I think people will get very creative when they have to, especially if it's like I have to make it in this month. Not
Mm-hmm.
not in a degen way, but like okay, I'm fired. I have to make it in something I love. I'm going into DeFi. I DM every protocol founder I can find and say, hey, do you need help? And then just like if you burn the ships, you got to learn to swim real quick, but,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
definitely, definitely.
yeah,
No, it's
but
true.
but
It's true.
nobody talks about the downside on that one. But I do think most people are more capable than they think they are. They give themselves credit for. So I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody here would obviously make it, but I think more people should try that as well.
No, but that's a
But
good,
some will not make it.
that's a really good point though too. And I think it honestly, like, I think the two ideas can kind of coexist, because it gives us a platform to build the confidence in the things that we can do before we can like actually make the decision to burn the ships. Like that's what I think has been really nice, is that like I don't have to burn the ships and go straight into Web3 to prove something to myself. But like once I feel
Yeah,
like I have proved something to myself, and like I feel like there is opportunity there, then like I can make that decision. It's like you build this informed decision before you can actually like burn the ships, say fuck
yeah,
it.
for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, I think burning the ships
Yeah,
too is kind of a psycho move as well, because you kind of have to have like a disregard for your own safety. But,
Yeah.
but so I'm
Yeah.
not really recommending that one, but definitely, I think too, like you can definitely hedge a bit more. Like people think, oh well, I do my 9 to 5, and then I don't have any other time. Like if you cut out like TV and all the like the little stuff that you do around there, like just getting on Discord sometimes, tweeting.
Yeah.
I think you can do it in a smart way where you're not at risk. Like, and then you
yeah,
could also do it in a dumb
definitely.
way and maybe it works out, but maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah,
No, I agree. I agree.
definitely.
Yeah. You buy Shiba Inu at before it's even launched, or same day the contract's deployed, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Maybe
Exactly.
not the smartest move, but obviously it worked
Yeah.
out for a lot of people
Just don't burn
retrospectively.
the ships
Yeah.
at 70 cents on Doge. You know what I mean? Like that's the problem.
Yeah.
don't do that.
Then you're fucked.
Yeah, then you're fucked. And well, cool. I think I was gonna ask a few until I think we run out of time, but I think the biggest one I want to start with was um so was there a podcast, Twitter page, or book that you look to when you're really looking for alpha, or looking to kind of get your head on straight, or looking for a sense of things?
So actually, I tried like right now I'm more focused like on building stuff, But
Mm.
before, when I was more like trying to build like my portfolio and like learning stuff, um, one podcast that I enjoyed a lot was the one from Yon Capital.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, so it's called like Yon Will Capital or something like this.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. It's focused on DeFi, which is what I like. Um, it's like a bunch of friends who have like an investment fund or like VC. I don't know exactly what it is, and they are just friends. They invest in some projects, and they get the chance to interview like super interesting people. So more or less like what you will end up doing in a year from now, you know.
We like the
Exactly.
But
confidence.
yeah, exactly.
We're all
But I
gonna
think
make it.
that's yeah, that's like that's it has like a similar vibe like this podcast. So it's basically good vibes loaded with a bunch of DeFi alpha, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I
Nice,
mean,
nice.
I'll take that as a compliment. We appreciate that.
Yeah, if we get
Thanks,
close to
thanks.
that, that's pretty good. I was gonna ask too. So, what do you think the world looks like at max DeFi adoption? So, like, we have, DeFi protocols are basically replacing everything. Like, we're fully saturated in the market. What do you think that the world looks like?
So basically, whenever if we reach that point, which hopefully we do,
Hmm.
I think people just like don't know that they are like that blockchain is a reality on their lives. They just like interact with applications, and then everything goes like under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
um, so to get there, I think that we just need like time.
Mm-hmm.
um, so time will bring bigger efficiency to the market and more liquidity, and this is like going to bring adoption slowly. So whenever we can onboard retail, and we know that retail is going to be onboarded whenever they don't know that they are using DeFi, because DeFi is boring for most people. That's when that's a reality, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I'm curious what you think on how important is it that people understand DeFi? So, like, what I mean is like, is it better that we have retail like a super easy application, like you don't see any of the blockchain, you they don't understand how it works, or would you rather have a smaller number of people into crypto that understand the blockchain, they're more about sovereign individuality, they see that the Fed
Mhm.
is killing people with inflation, like they're
Yeah,
more
yeah,
yeah, would you rather have that or just mass adoption and they don't see the inner workings?
Mass adoption.
yeah.
Pump my bags, please.
I was about to say
Yeah.
the opposite, but yeah.
Great
No,
minds think
like
alike. That's perfect.
no, like I don't know, like I'm an idealist, and I would love like people to have like awareness of what they do
Mm-hmm.
about like their lives. At least that's what I try to do with mine, and I think it's not necessary that everyone knows how DeFi works, but we just need people to learn. First of all, like learn about inflation, learn about like personal finance, like how to handle your money. You need to save money, interest
Mm-hmm.
rates, this kind of stuff, and then also about like decentralization, like censorship resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Like learn, like people should learn, and I think that's why blockchain is so appealing to me. Maybe that's more philosophical, but we win whenever people realize that governments are not like the key to everything and are
Mm-hmm.
not the key, and the system works in a way that it's like governments are our fathers and mothers, like they are our parents, um, and we do not question what they do and what they say.
Oh
But the
fuck.
moment,
We have
you
another
know,
anarchist. We gotta kick him off.
no,
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 no.
we're all
I
anarchists
love
here.
it.
No.
No, but the moment like people start to wonder, that's when they realize, okay, um, what happens with governments? Why do they have like the ability to,
Mm-hmm.
restrict my freedom? What happens with
Hmm.
banks? Why can they like freeze my assets? And then when that's when you realize, okay, that's why blockchain is important. You know, I can be like sovereign. I
Yeah.
can own like my I can own my life at the end. You know, like you
No,
take your
it's
own decisions,
yeah.
and yeah, that's the way I see it.
It's true. I mean, I think like, you know, I made the joke about like mass adoption, but I think like it shouldn't be mass adoption at the sacrifice or at the exception of, you know, actually understanding what you're doing. Like I feel like this when moon mentality, as much as I enjoy saying it, and I'll probably just end up getting it tattooed across my chest at some point. Like I feel like this when moon mentality should at some point change to like why moon? Like why is this thing going to do really well? Like
Start
why?
asking,
Yeah,
why
exactly. Like
moon?
yeah, you didn't know you
Yeah.
need to like ask the why questions a lot. Like and I agree with you completely, Russ, and like being aware and understanding how you operate with the world, how how the world kind of spits back, like how it reacts to the things
Mhm.
that you do, and like all of these important mechanics. Maybe not all the way into like the weeds, because obviously like we just don't have the time nor like ability to understand everything that occurs and happens to us at like the most finite detail. But
Mhm.
like understanding at least how things work operationally is incredibly important for feeling like we have some control over the things that we do, and feeling like we have, you know, a mental and physical awareness of the things that we interact with.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
definitely.
it's definitely like a response. It breaks down to like a responsibility
Mm-hmm.
issue. So if people can take responsibility for their finances, for the things around them, it becomes a much happier, like better life if you look at it in a couple different ways, right? Like if you're more responsible for your finances, then you probably are happier because like if I make this much money, I can spend this much money, or what's happening. It's not just like the bank suddenly took my money and I don't know what's happening, or like why can I only buy like a gallon of milk now for
Mm-hmm.
$7? Like you understand how things work. But I think that applies to a lot of things. I think what most people are going to get introduced to that self sovereignty or responsibility is through finances, because it's so
Yeah,
black and white,
Yeah,
and then they'll
for
exactly.
sure.
realize
Yeah.
it with
Yeah.
with everything else. Like I mean, I think the fun part is when they realize, oh, I can take responsibility for my area. Like, oh, I can help out my neighbor. Like, I don't have to wait for,
Mm-hmm.
the government to step in. And, like that's how a lot of rural areas are. They're just like, oh, a buddy,
Mhm.
his car broke down. I'll go pick him up. Like, I don't,
Yeah, we're
it's
not
not like
calling
wait for a tow
AAA.
truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're
Yeah.
just like, they just take responsibility. I think people will be much happier that way.
Yeah,
No, I
but
agree.
I agree with what you said, that one of the first steps to like realize this is via finance, because at the end all of us like want money, because like we live in a society where you need money for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's a lot of time it's an eye opener. You know, like maybe you are not interested on how things work, but the moment you realize, oh fuck, um, I need more money because I cannot like make it through the end of the month. Then you start like, okay, oh, personal finance, I should save, or interest rates, or and then these like questions start like popping into your head,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. But basically, like I think what we said, like I completely agree. And just like as a final thought is like, I think DeFi is super exciting, but we don't need DeFi to be exciting for everyone. But
Mm-hmm.
what we do not need either is that if we end up having like mass adoption, but then people do not know the power of blockchains, and there's really no difference between what we have now with like traditional finance and governments and like censorship.
Mm-hmm.
Because if everything is like so under the hood that they don't know the value that they have, they won't be able to like appraise.
No, I agree.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If understands what's under the hood, then how different really is that from like what's going on right now?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think even if we get like we recreate the banks and everything again, but it's all on the blockchain and everybody can see it, I think just that the ability for people to be able to check it
Yeah.
on chain, like
Mm-hmm.
one person checks it,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Zach. You know what I mean?
Zach, yeah, that's what I was
Right.
about to
Like
say. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
exactly. That's enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
then
enough.
that is a good step in the right direction, and then maybe in the future we make it, and it's not this cycle that we get out all the corruption and stuff like that.
oh
But
yeah,
that, but I
and
think
that
we could go
lets
on for two more hours, right?
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
no,
man,
that
I fucking love like these kind of like topics, and
no, we really no,
I
we
love
we
it.
enjoyed. I mean, I'll speak for both of us. Like we enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah,
You're always welcome to hop back on. Like whenever you want, you're always welcome.
thanks,
And
man.
I mean, I think everything that we've talked about, like towards the end here, especially like macro wise, I think lends itself well to the Doom Loop article that we were thinking about talking about during the podcast. So like anyone that's listening to this, I'd give that a read. It was pretty, it's definitely very beefy. You should just download Speechify and have it read to you like Mathias does. I actually downloaded it today and did that. But the Doom Loop article is pretty cool, and it kind of talks about the maxima minima of, you know, DeFi adoption and blockchain adoption, etc. So definitely recommend that to anyone. And Russ, like, thanks for joining us, man. It's been a super enlightening and fun conversation with you, and I know that you're gonna absolutely kill it in the space. And you know, a year from now we'll be having you on. Maybe we'll both be on the podcast from our Lambos and enjoying the rich life.
Man,
Exactly.
awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Like I had like such a fun time. And
yeah, of course, man.
Yeah, I'll definitely be in touch. Like we don't need to have like a podcast to have this kind of like
it's always just talk.
conversations, you know.
I agree.
Next time you drop an article, we'll come on in, break it down for the smooth brains.
Yeah,
you know,
sounds good.
Yeah, 100%,
drop a big brain article and we'll break it down.
Yeah. Just let us. Actually, though, like whenever you drop an article, just shoot it our way in case we just haven't seen it.
And you can do proofread if you want.
Yeah, definitely. And we can always talk about it on the pod too. So definitely enjoy you, man. I had a good time. I know Mathias did too.
Yep.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye, guys.
Peace.